Everyone says that Saturn is discipline. Everyone says that Capricorn is hard work. And honestly, I think we've misunderstood both. This upcoming full moon in Capricorn can resonate for you in a variety of different ways. But when I was thinking about it and when I was seeing what was playing out in real time, I understood something really important. And it has a lot to do with creativity, which is often not the realm of Capricorn or Saturn at all. But you'll come to find, once you finish watching this video, that creativity and Saturn kind of go hand in hand. So if you want to know more about the energy of the moment and what's really good for this Capricorn full moon, stick around. You definitely don't want to miss this. Hello, my loves. As always, I hope that this video finds you well and in excellent spirits. If you're new around here, hi, hello, and welcome. My name is Mel. I'm a professional astrologer, and I'm the founder of Divine Feminine Works, where I help people unlock their divinity and discover their magic. So if you're new, welcome. And as always, if you are returning, welcome back. So on Monday, June 29th, I believe. Yes, Monday is June 29th. We will have a full moon in Capricorn. Now, this isn't anything revolutionary. We have a full moon in Capricorn every year. What I do think is revolutionary is how to approach the energy of this full moon. Now, I'm sure you're going to hear a lot of astrologers talking about Capricorn in terms of discipline, in terms of hard work, in terms of success and reward. And that is very true. But I think how we think about success, how we think about reward, how we think about material things, because Capricorn is a material sign, right? It's an earth sign. And, Capricorn loves all of the trappings of success, all of the signals of success. Capricorn loves the labels, the fancy cars, not just for the sake of having them, but for the sake of what they mean. They are status, they are accomplishments, right? And accomplishment is very much a part of this energy. But I think we have to look at all of this in a different way. We live in a society that values and that praises visible productivity, right? Looking busy, hustle culture, right? And we equate the busier you are to the more productive you are, and therefore more success, right? The busier you are, the more potential you have to be successful. And although I think we're starting to dismantle what that is, I think at the core of everything of that we do is that principle, right? And that's where discipline comes in, right? This is where it's like, okay, you have to create a routine and stick to it every day. You have to be consistent. And don't get me wrong, that is very true, but it's not the whole story. Let me give you an example. So when I was in college, I had an internship at a PR firm. And at that point in my life, I was working toward, going to law school and being an entertainment attorney. So having a job in the entertainment industry was like optimal to me. Now, I wasn't basically on the PR or marketing side, but getting exposure to the industry in any way possible was a thing for me, right? So I worked at this PR firm. And a part of my job, a large part of my job, was creating press kits. Now, back in that time, and I'm talking about more than 20 years ago, press kits were physical. You had a physical folder that contained a headshot, it contained copies of articles and publications. Anything that really demonstrated the celebrity of someone went into this physical press kit. And so my job was to sit there at the copy machine, making copies of all of these articles, getting all these headshots, putting staples, and putting these press kits together. It's very like assembly line work, right? But I remember I got yelled at by my boss, who was a complete bitch. Complete bitch. Like, mm. She said I wasn't looking busy enough. And I remember thinking, how busy can I look stapling things? Like, do you want me to do it faster? Do you want me to look more productive? And I think that example really exemplifies how we view productivity. The busier you look, the more booked you are, right? Booked and busy. That's the phrase that pays literally for a lot of people. But that doesn't necessarily equal productivity, nor does it equal success, right? Because visibility doesn't equate to meaningful work, right? You could be doing busy work all day and it doesn't necessarily move the needle. It's a lot more nuanced than that. Now, I want to introduce a concept here that you're going to have to follow me a little bit. You're going to have to follow my intellectual gymnastics here. Saturn is not necessarily, and by Saturn, Saturn is the ruling planet of Capricorn, if you're new around here, right? Saturn isn't asking, can you work harder? Can you put in more hours? Can you be busier? What Saturn and what I think this full moon may be asking us is, what is valuable enough that you're willing to protect it? Okay. Now, I want you to think of Capricorn energy and protection. And I don't think you're going to hear too many people talking about this because it's not a direct correlation. So follow me here. All right. When you think about any particular zodiac sign, you're actually thinking of two. You're thinking of that sign and its opposite or sister sign. And you do that because, long story short, astrology is, it's more holistic than just this means this means that. Everything isn't in a silo, everything works together. And sister signs or opposite signs share the same axis, and that same axis has a particular theme. And one of the themes of the Capricorn and Cancer axis, right? Because Capricorn and Cancer are opposite signs, they're sister signs. One of the basic concepts of that axis is protection. But those two signs demonstrate it in two different ways. I also like to think of the Capricorn Cancer axis as devotion. Cancer is like, what are you willing to emotionally protect? And you emotionally protect things by what you nurture, what you give emotional energy to. Capricorn, on the other hand, is about what are you willing to put in the time to protect? And by protect, I don't necessarily mean like when you're fighting. But if you have a goal, right? If you have a trajectory, if you have a finish line, which is very much the realm of Capricorn, right? What are you willing to do to get there? That's almost a form of protection. It's also like saying, what structures are you willing to put in place to protect that goal? Right? It's almost like when you put up a fence. Fences demarcate boundary, right? It means that I have this plot of land. Maybe I have a house on it. Maybe I have a barn on it. But I'm protecting it from outside influence because I want to develop it. Cancer says, what is worth loving enough to protect? Right? And then Capricorn says, what structures will actually protect it? So now back to my original point about Capricorn. So this Capricorn full moon is like, what's valuable enough that you're willing to protect it, that you're actually willing to put up a structure to protect it? And that is where time and creativity come in. I want to reframe your thinking about success because this is how it was presented to me, not only as I was preparing for this video, but just life over the last couple of days. I find that me personally, the energy and the days leading up to a full moon are always extremely profound. Like sometimes I will literally be sitting in silence or sitting and meditating. Other times I'm hyper vigilant about what I'm seeing because it's sort of showing me what the energy of this full moon is going to be about. And over the last couple of days, the thing that's been really like ruminating in my mind has been like, what is success? And productivity to success pipeline is what we've all been spoon fed, and I think is what we've all been socialized to believe. But it's actually creativity. It's creativity that I think is a direct pipeline to success, right? And then when you think about Saturn and Capricorn energy, you automatically think of time. And when you think about creativity, productivity, success, all of these things, time becomes a cognitive resource. What do I mean by that? Time allows for success, and how you use that time ultimately determines the kind of success you will have. Now, don't get me wrong, there is success in productivity. I don't want to minimize that. But I also think that success can look like creativity. And what does creativity need? Time. I'll never forget this. And this is something that has stuck to me to this day. And this is something that happened like over 10 years ago. Um, I had a colleague of mine when I was practicing law, he was another attorney, and we would collaborate on things, and we had a podcast together. And I remember we were talking about, we both had our own practices, and we were talking about like what we were charging for different services. And we were talking about like, LLC partnership agreements. And we were talking price. I realized that he was charging like three times more than I was. And I remember I was thinking like I was a more seasoned attorney than he was. So I was like, yo, how is he charging this much? Like, what is it? And he said something to me that I will never forget. He's like, when you are presented with something as an attorney, part of the work is time to think. And thinking isn't just, oh, let me think about this logically, right? I just said that the energy leading up to a full moon, or even a new moon for that matter, it's about either sitting in meditation or it's about taking stock of the experiences that you're seeing in real time and analyzing that. That is part of the thinking process. Thinking is a process. Thinking is work. We come from a society where work has to look tangible. It has to look busy. It has to look like I'm booked and busy. I'm doing this. I'm creating content. I have no time to sleep. Thinking is work. And oftentimes, the professions that involve a lot of thinking tend to charge more because thinking is work. And thinking is where creativity begins, right? Because it's not just follow this blueprint, follow this formula and do it a lot and produce and produce and produce. There's no time for original thinking, whereas creativity is original thinking, right? So do you see where I'm starting to go with this? It's like this full moon is showing us that time is a valuable resource, not just the time you put into something, but the time to create it, the time to think about it. And I use the word think intentionally because on June 29th, when we have this full moon in Capricorn, Mercury is going retrograde in where? Cancer, the opposite side to Capricorn, which I just talked about before, right? Cancer is about emotional nurturing, right? And with Mercury in Cancer, it's about sort of how maybe it's nurturing thoughts. It's nurturing thinking. It's thinking as work. But now you're looking at it from the Capricorn perspective of the structures that you're going to put in place. But Cancer is also having you look backward. It's having you reflect. It's like sit your ass down and think. If you heed this, I didn't even give the advice yet, but if you're catching what I'm throwing right now, you could use this energy and this time to reflect on things to create. Now, it could be things from the past, it could be thoughts from the past, right? But this is a highly creative time, but not in the way that you're thinking, not in the Venus and Neptune kind of way where you're painting and you're dancing and you're, doing all those things. This is taking the time to think, the time to create. That's why your time is so valuable. When you're in survival mode, when you're in a constant state of urgency, when you're in a state of my nervous system is always deregulated, you don't have the time to think. You don't have the time to create. The creation process is just not meditating. It's not just sitting down and thinking. It could be going to play golf, right? We talk about, wealthy people are always talking about how many deals are made on the golf course. That's part of the work, right? It's not just, okay, I'm going to sit at my desk and think about this or theorize this. It's being out in nature. It could be taking a walk. It could be taking a nap. It could be playing a video game. It could be watching TV. The time to think, the time to mull things over, the time to be in life, to be in reality, and allow those experiences to teach you and to color and perhaps give you solutions to an issue, answers to a question, components to a framework. Time. Time is a cognitive resource. Time as your most important resource, right? And it's not just thinking, it's reflecting, it's integrating, it's processing, it's analyzing, right? It's recognizing patterns. All of that is work. So I think what this full moon in Capricorn is doing, it is reformulating your idea of productivity. It's reformulating your ideas of work, of success, and using a component of Capricorn and Saturn, which is time, to do it, right? So you have the opportunity to achieve success in a different way, to think, to carve out time to think, to reflect. We're entering Mercury retrograde. Reflection is the flex right now, to put it colloquially, right? So, what should you do? How do you use this energy? I think this full moon is an invitation. It's an invitation to reclaim your time. It's an invitation to reflect and reconsider what time, creativity, and productivity look like and feel like to you. Remember, we're talking about Capricorn and Cancer. By virtue of it being a full moon, the sun is in Cancer and the moon is in Capricorn. There's that dichotomy, there's that axis right there, right? And then you have Mercury retrograde in Cancer, which is like reflect, sit down and think. Spend the time. Take your time back. If time is a resource, take your time back and use it constructively. Now, we all have the same amount of time, right? Like everyone talks about, oh, Beyonce has the same 24 hours that we do. And I don't mean it in that way. It's just how you spend your time is very telling and has a direct correlation to success, creativity, productivity, all the things. We all have the same amount of time, right? If the workday was structured that half of it was just for thinking and the other half was just for productivity and actual tangible work, how would you spend that first half of the day? Would it be doom scrolling? Would it be walking in nature? Would it be sleeping? Would it be meditating? Think about that. I think that's a worthwhile exercise for all of us right now. If we all had the same 8 hours to do work and only 4 of those hours was actually doing the work, what would the other 4 hours look like? I think that that's what this full moon in Capricorn is inviting you to think on, and with Mercury retrograde, reflect on as well. And then, sort of to round this off, I think that in terms of time, Capricorn also speaks of things that take time. The axis of Cancer and Capricorn is about devotion. I always think of Cancer energy as planting a seed and watering it, right? You're watering it today, but it's not going to bear fruit today. You have to devote time to it. And Capricorn is very much about that. That's where the whole discipline comes in. Are you willing to take the time to cultivate these things? I think that even in this age of creativity, right, where we have content creation and content creators, you'll find that many of them are still very much on a rigid schedule. You have deliverables that have to be delivered at this date. It puts constraints on creativity because it introduces time, and time in the sense of urgency. Now, big business runs off urgency. I think it's fueled by urgency. But are you willing to suspend that concept of time and understand that sometimes things take more than just a deadline? The creative process is always happening, and it doesn't always necessarily adhere to a strict timeline or to arbitrary deadlines that we sometimes set for ourselves or that are set for us. Are you willing to suspend that right now? That's something you may want to think about too. And I think that the more that we think about it in this way, and we start integrating this into how we work, I think this is how we're going to change the whole 9 to 5 narrative and the whole sort of productivity structure that we've been adhering to for so long. Not saying that we need to scrap deadlines completely, but I think that this full moon may really help you understand how those work and maybe how they haven't been working for you, particularly in the creative realm. Just food for thought. So, to sum this all up, I think that this is a full moon that invites you to think differently about your greatest resource, which is time, success, productivity, creativity, and how all of those things work together specifically for you. And the specifically for you part is the part that I want to emphasize because all of these concepts whether it's societal concepts, whether it is astrological concepts, are merely concepts. It's about how those concepts play out for you, how you discover them, how you work with them, right? So think about those things as they work for you and understand that busyness doesn't necessarily mean productivity. Sometimes you need devotion, and I think devotion is fueled by time. And that's what I think that this full moon is all about. All right. So I want to say that how this is playing out is really going to be emphasized if you're a Capricorn rising. If Capricorn is your first house, I think that this is something that you should really pay attention to because this full moon is happening in your first house. And the first house has a lot to do with our opinions and our thoughts. And with Mercury going retrograde, I feel like Capricorn risings are going to feel this quite intensely. Not to say that nobody else will, but I think Capricorn risings in particular will definitely feel this. Okay. So, if you want to know more about your rising sign, I just created this free guide called Your Rising Sign Strategy, which can help you understand how to make decisions based off your rising sign. I think it's really insightful. It's a free download. If you're interested, the link is in the description box below. If you like how I think, if you like how I work, then definitely sign up for a clarity call, which is a precursor to my natal chart experience, which is called the blueprint. We can chop it up and talk about perhaps what you are working through, what you need to decide, where you're trying to go, and see if the blueprint is even a good fit for you. If you're already interested in getting the natal chart experience, the link to the blueprint is below. But if you want to know more and if you want to sort of get acclimated to my work, hit the link for clarity call in the description box below. Talking about the description box below, you'll find all of my digital products. You'll find lots of stuff that can really help you understand yourself because that is the foundation of everything. And you can find those in the links in the description box below. All right, my loves, that's pretty much all I've got for you for this video. Hopefully that made sense. Hopefully you use this time and this energy constructively because time is your most valuable resource. And I'm thankful that you gave me your time. You could have been doing anything else, but you sat and you watched this video, you listened to it while you were doing other things, and I sincerely appreciate you. So if you like this content, you want to see more of it, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, set notifications, all the good things. If you want to support my work, join the channel membership. It's a great way to do so. All right, my loves, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in my next video. Take care.